So let me get my notes here. Welcome everyone back to the Rock Fantasy YouTube channel. Another episode of the Rock Fantasy Files. Me and John McAtee actually set up this episode, but John had something happen where he couldn't do it. He's getting ready to go play the Philly Beer Metal Fest, and he said he just got too much going on, but he really upset he couldn't make it tonight. So welcome back. We're setting the time machine back to 1985. The chat on 4 albums that are celebrating 40th anniversaries in the year 2025. So it's an extreme metal battle, pretty much. Is pretty much extreme and heavy stuff. We're going from last week, we were in the 70s. The first album we're going to discuss, I'm doing in alphabetical order. The descriptions is Carnivore. It's the debut album by the American band Carnivore out of Brooklyn. Of course, Peter Steele went on to do Typo Negative later on. It was released in 1985 through Roadrunner Records. The second album we will discuss, a couple of us touched base on this on the Sea of Tranquility channel a few weeks ago, which I thought was they were in with a group that was an easy one for Celtic Frost. To Mega Therion, the second studio album by Swiss band Celtic Frost, released of October of 1985 through Noise Records, and the cover artwork was a painting by H.R. Geiger titled Satan I, or Satan. To Mega Therion translate to great beast in Greek. It's an expression found in the Bible, was also nicknamed used by Aleister Crowley. The third album we will discuss tonight is Seven Churches, the debut album by American death metal band Possessed. The album refers to the 7 churches of Asia mentioned in the book of Revelation. The Exorcist begins with producer Randy Burns' version of Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells, performed as it was in the 1973 horror film of the same name. 7 Churches is widely regarded as possibly the first death metal album to exist, and it's been named one of the 10 essential albums of the genre. Jeff Becerra and Larry Lalonde were only 16 when the album was recorded. And the fourth album we will discuss tonight is Hell Awaits, the second studio album by American thrash metal legend Slayer, released on April 8th, 1985. People were saying, like, as we're taping today on March 26th, that it was released today. And that was a little confusing, but Tony Dio seems to think that it was April 8th. But some on social media, people were posting that it was released today. So I'm not sure if it was released in a different country today or blah, blah, blah. The band's 1983 demo, Show No Mercy, became a Metal Blade Records' highest selling release. And as a result, producer Brian Slagle desired to release a second Slayer album. To that end, Slagle financed a recording budget, which Slow No Mercy was paid by band members, and recruited several experienced producers to help in the studio. So we welcome everyone to the show tonight. We got James Delisle, we got myself, of course, Tony Dio's here, Count Ralphus, Ed Farsley, and our other Ralph from Almost Human is with us tonight. We originally had a couple special guests that couldn't make it tonight. John McAtee could not make it, as I said. Denny Barth is stuck at work, and Miles Berggren is stuck at work. But I do have Miles' picks, and I do have Denny's picks tonight. So I didn't get John's picks even, but John, if people...
Jeez, he gives us this hardest episode, and he doesn't even give his picks.
He didn't give us picks. So John is going to be performing next Thursday in Philadelphia, in the area. It's the warm up to the Philly Beer Fest, and they even have an incantation beer. It looks pretty cool.
That is cool.
I saw the can. Cool. I'm like, that's a pretty cool collector's item there.
Man, so, I'd like to have one.
Well, anyhow, I've asked the guests tonight to rank the albums in order and pick a favorite track or two from each. Ed Farsley from Armageddon Productions, we're going to go with you first. We're going to pick number 4 and number 3. Ed has to leave and go to work, so he's a little bit on a time thing with us, so we'll get that started. And welcome, Ed.
All right, cool. How you doing, guys? Just got back from Hell's Heroes a couple days ago. That was an outstanding fest.
Oh yeah, Hell's Heroes. Yeah, you must have a blast. You're still tired or what?
No, I caught up in my sleep, but I'm just absolutely fantastic. That's a great time.
I watched a lot of videos, man. Yeah, it looked awesome.
It's the ultimate fest. It really is my favorite fest. Next to my fest. It's my favorite fest. So let's see, 1985. Wow. We're really touching into it now. Four just ultra classic underground metal albums here. Just as like I said, we did 1985 a couple weeks ago. We touched on it. We're gonna be touching on 1985 a lot this year, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll have some more homework.
It's one of the best fucking years.
Yeah.
Now let's see here. Yeah, I mean, I remember all these albums when they came out very fondly. Two of the albums I had well before they were even released back then. I was still tape trading. I had been tape trading for about a year. So I got some advances, got some live stuff. So I was familiar with two of the albums when they came out. But let's see here. We'll start off with number 4, Carnivore, the debut album for Carnivore, Brooklyn's favorite children, basically, the bastard children of Brooklyn. I remember Carnivore, first time I saw them live was about this time when the album came, probably a little after the album came out, at Lemoore. They were opening for Nuclear Assault and Overkill. They were still wearing the full fur outfits. They were throwing raw meat out on stage. Long before Deicide thought it was cool. Carnivore did it first, and they did it much better. Now, saying all that, this is absolutely, how did I word this here? Okay, this is a raw, unfiltered, hardcore metal masterpiece. That's what this album. Now, saying that, I got to admit, I'm not the biggest Carnivore fan. I never have been. Back in the day, I liked them, appreciated them, but never really got into them. It's like Manowar and Kiss, bands I like, but never really got into them. In later years, I got into more Carnivore, and I do like this album. I mean, let's see what we got here. Ground Zero Brooklyn, hell of a great song. Race War, God is Dead, Sex and Violence. That's
yeah. Race War and Ground Zero Brooklyn and Race War Retaliation.
That's Retaliation.
Yeah.
Retaliation. You're right. Shit, I was listening to something on Spotify and it mixed it up. You're right.
I was wondering. I'm like, wait a minute. I
That's right.
didn't think they were on
like I
that
said, I
record.
wasn't the biggest Carnivore fan. I mean, I don't even have it on vinyl. I just have the cassette.
Wow.
So
you got the Repulsion demo, but you don't have the album. That's crazy.
Exactly. I was more the typo at the time. But I did get to meet Peach Steele. Got to be very good friends with him, hang out with him a lot the last few years of his life.
Nice.
After, while he was doing typo and after typo and all, hanging out at Old Duff's in Brooklyn. And he was just a hell of a nice guy. Just really, really sweet man. Number 3 album, Celtic Frost, the Mega Therion. By the time this album came out, I had already been into Hellhammer and Celtic Frost for almost 2 years. So this album was very well anticipated and very, very well loved. I loved it when it came out. It's got a lot more depth, and the musicality, the songwriting is advanced a lot since Morbid Tales, but they still retain that Celtic Frost heaviness and just that interesting arranging and just the uniqueness about them and just the ferocity of Hellhammer and Celtic Frost remained. This is just a fantastic album. The Usurper, Jewel Throne, Circus of the Tyrants, that was originally on the Emperor's Return EP. Just fantastic, all-time classic Celtic Frost songs. Let's see, Dawn of Megiddo, Beyond the North Winds, Necromantical Screams, all killer songs. And I even love the Tears in the Prophet's Dream, the little offbeat sound, the instrumental. Just fucking great album, fantastic band. Perfect catalog they had back in the day until after this album.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was the trip out. That was the trip out part of the album. Where,
yes. Yeah.
You
like
were bugging out. It's like, check out the trip out parts coming.
Yep. So cool. There we have it.
All right. So I guess I'm going to move over to. We always make him go last, and he's one of our newer guests. So how about we go over to Ralph from the Almost Human channel. Welcome, Ralph.
Thank you. Good to be here. You can call me Faisal.
Oh, you could be Faisal. We'll call you Faisal, and that way we're not confused with the other Ralph.
I changed my name, and I don't know how it turned out like that. But I'm gonna mirror what Ed was saying. But I am a big fan of Carnivore. But I'm not gonna lie, I did not know Carnivore back then. I guess you had to be either North or New York, because I know they were a big L'Amour fan.
Oh yeah.
and I believe I did hear them and read about them back then, but never really heard them till many years later. Even though I like Retaliation a little more, I love this album, man. Carnivore with I love to eat. That shit is just too cool. and World War III and IV, God is Dead, Thermonuclear Warrior.
Yeah.
It's an amazing album. I absolutely love Carnivore. And yes, as much as I love this, man, I put two above it is the Mega Therion. And what I love about this album, I do love Morbid Tales more because that was the first one I heard, but I love how they also, what Ed was saying, how they advanced. They also added almost like an operatic tones to some song or classical pieces, like the opening track is so bombastic and shit. It's just amazing. I really did keep up with even into the Pandemonium. As weird as it was, I loved it. It's Cold Lake. I know some love it. I don't like it at all. But this is an amazing and game changer. This is a band that really was very influential to a lot of future metal bands, and rightfully so. Just amazing music. That's my number 3.
Cool. Let's head over to Mr. Tony Dio next.
Always good to be here, guys. This was a tough one, and I had to go back a couple of times, and I actually changed the order a couple of times. But I was like, okay, I got to come up with something here for what I like, what I listen to the most.
Yeah.
And so actually, you got to put somebody at the bottom, but that doesn't mean it's bad. You just got to put somebody at the bottom.
Yeah.
And I put Possessed. I went Possessed at the bottom because I like this record, and I think it's a groundbreaking album. It probably is the first death metal record. It's a great thrash, speed metal record. We're not really thrash, more speed metal. It's just a lot of fast stuff on here, to the point where a lot of it starts to sound the same. The songs kind of run together, but I like the Eyes of Horror EP and Beyond the Gates albums way more than I like the debut, believe it or not. And but that's not saying this is a bad record. Like I said, it's just definitely still some great stuff on. I love The Exorcist. That's probably one of my favorites on here. And I love Evil Warriors, and Holy Hell is another great one. And I like Fallen Angel with a little keyboard part at the beginning that makes it stand out. It sounds a little different. So yeah, so that's number 4. Number 3 is going to really blow your mind because I'm going to go with Hell Awaits.
Wow.
Because once again, much like in the Possessed story there, I like the first album, Show No Mercy, and the Haunting the Chapel EP way more than this record.
Mm-hmm.
And I like what came after this, the next couple, way more than this record. But it's a good speed metal album. Hell Awaits is just incredible opener. I just love the way it builds and comes in. It's just a great song. I love when they open with that song live. They should always open with it live. It's great. Kill Again is a great one. And I've always loved it. Dawn They Sleep, and probably Harden the Arteries is my other favorite on this one. Yeah. So as I said, I gotta pick them in some orders. That's the way I've gone with this one. So number 3 for me is going to be Hell Awaits.
All right. Let's head over to Count Ralphus next.
All right, yeah. So, man, all 4 of these are just so classic, so legendary. To me, these 4, like compared to the last one we did with the other 4 albums from 1985, they don't come within a mile of these 4 albums to me. These 4 albums were such life-changing albums for me. It's super hard to pick anything last. But I gotta pick the one that it's the heaviest album of them all, I think. But it's probably the one that I listen to the least. I like what Tony said about how he loved Eyes of Horror and Beyond the Gates. To me, those albums when I was young, I was able to sing along with those albums more. Where when I first heard this, it was like hearing Morbid Angel for the first time. It was like hearing Carcass for the first time. It was like I had to like listen to it a few times to understand what the fuck I was hearing because it was so brutal and so heavy. 1985, this is the heaviest thing going. I love this album. I love this band. But yeah, you got to pick one at number 4. So my number 3 Now, the next three albums, to me, all three of these albums will probably be in my top 20 albums of all time. That's how much I love these albums. And that's hard to say, though, because I've never sat there and made a list of my top 20, but I believe all three of these would be in there. And as I was thinking about it, I was thinking, Slayer's got to be number one for everybody. Everybody's going to pick Slayer. I got a Hell Awaits tattoo. To me, this is my favorite Slayer album. I mean, I love Haunting the Chapel, but it's only 3 songs. Those 3 songs are godly. If they were part of this album, it would be the all-time greatest album.
For sure.
But just because
just to let you know, Haunting the Chapel to me is the greatest Slayer release, and it's only 3 songs. But
it's my favorite EP. It's my favorite EP of all time. Every time we've done an EP thing, it's always my number one EP of all time. So
I like it over all Slayer full albums.
I agree.
Yeah. Chemical Warfare is my favorite all-time Slayer song.
That song, well,
Great EP.
Cryonics and Chemical Warfare are my 2 favorite Slayer songs.
But I just thinking, you know what? Everybody's gonna vote for Slayer. So I was like, and to me, like I say, all 3 of these are about a tie. I mean, I going back and forth, and I started drinking as I'm listening to these albums, and I'm thinking like, which one do I like drinking to the most? And that didn't really help, but it kind of did. I changed things around right at the last minute because I was listening to one album right at the end, and I ended up bumping up from number 3 to number 1. So yeah, I'm gonna go. My number 3 is gonna be Slayer, even though it's my favorite Slayer album and it's a fucking goddamn classic. I'm not even gonna go through the songs. It's just there's nothing to skip on any of these albums. These are all pretty much masterpieces. And I pulled out my my Hell Awaits bootleg. Got a kind of cool cover.
Nice.
Yeah.
This one,
Killer.
This one comes with a poster of that too, which is really cool.
What
Is that a live? That's a live show from the tour.
Yeah, Hell Awaits tour. It's
Yeah.
man, it's hard to read because it's I got no glasses on. It's It's a good bootleg. It's one of the classic shit covers of it.
Is it a soundboard?
Let me see.
I have a Slayer bootleg from the Hell Awaits era. That's a soundboard and it sounds really good. I believe it's Eindhoven.
Yeah.
Holland. So
This
like
one
Holland.
this one's the Holland. Yeah, this is the Holland '85. I always had this on
That's
cassette.
it.
I had
Yeah.
I had a bootleg cassette of this for years, but yeah, that's what it is. They
That
come with
sounds
this cool Slayer little cool poster, little different
yeah.
reimagining of the artwork. It's fucking
That's
cool.
awesome. That is badass.
Got it at Rock Fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Years ago, we don't carry stuff like
Yeah,
that.
years ago when somebody dropped
Yeah.
off their old used albums, they dropped off there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know what comes in used. All right, so we're gonna move over to James.
All right. So this one was pretty easy for me because there's, for me, a clear number 1. And I love Ralph's t-shirt tonight. Count Ralphus's t-shirt fucking rules. I got to get my hands on one of them Carnivore shirts. My number 4 is going to be Seven Churches. Great album, but production leaves a little to be desired. And I understand that because these dudes were kids. Obviously, they didn't have the dough to go to a great producer. I totally understand that. I also feel that this album, in parts, is a little sloppy, especially on the drums. But there's still some
it gives it a charm though because of those drums.
Right.
It's so unorthodox, but it's got like a charm to them because of that. But no one plays like that. It's crazy.
No, it's very true. And I was going to say it kind of reminds me of like old original Misfits and the fact that it's so sloppy like that. It's about the attitude and, it's about the style and the sound and, they were broke kids. So this is what they came up with. I wasn't writing music like this at 16, so I'm not shitting on them. Just saying that out of the 4 records, this one's a little sloppy and kind of sometimes takes me out of it. Not that I think it stinks, and I love this album. It's great. But out of the 4, one of them's got to be number 4, and Possessed is going to take number 4. Exorcist is a great song. I really like Holy Hell and Twisted Minds back to back. Those are two great tunes. And of course, the tune Death Metal is fucking fantastic too. So
Yep.
that's my number 4. Number 3, the mighty Celtic Frost.
Okay.
Great album. What I always liked about these dudes is the mix of, I guess you would call it pre-thrash or like extreme punk, and then lots of really cool sludgy doom metal riffs that come out of nowhere. The Usurper is a fantastic song. Dawn of Megiddo, I love. Circle of the Tyrants is fantastic. I really like Fainted Eyes too. I feel like that's one of the more underrated tunes on this album. And man, going back and listening to this the past couple weeks, there's so many parts where I'm like, boy, you just hear the influence these dudes had on Goat Whore. It's just so blatant. Like there's so many parts where, you know, Goat Whore's doing this black metal thing and then busts into like a sludgy sort of punk thing, and you know, Ben does that ooh. Yeah, I always love that Tom Warrior doing that. It's just so cool. So yeah, there's my number 3, Celtic Frost to Mega Therion. Great album.
Ben told a story about how he was doing that in a sound check because Goat Whore got to do the Frost tour when they reunited and they toured America.
Yeah,
I
And
remember
they
that.
came to the chance with
Yeah.
Goat Whore and All Out War.
Yeah.
But he was doing the ooh, and then Tom Warrior was watching him. He said, "I should have fucking copyrighted that." Like a joke, you know.
That's awesome.
Absolutely, yeah. Ooh.
cool. So well, everybody's giving here, and I guess it's my turn now. So let me get my notes out. I was listening to you guys so much I wasn't paying attention. It was my turn. All right. So as I go on, yeah, like everybody said, it was a tough battle so far. Me and John went over this a couple weeks ago, and of course he's not here, and he didn't give us picks. So John, you're in trouble. Ralph said he had to do all his hard work, and you didn't have to do your homework because you're on tour. So playing real gigs. But anyhow, so my number 4 will be Carnivore. It's the album I listened to the least out of these other ones. I mean, I love that record. I played that a lot at Rock Fantasy back in the day. I always liked the Legion of Doom, the World's War 3 and 4, God is Dead. Another great song. This, I tell you, in the climate we live in today, this album would have got canceled.
Oh yeah.
Big time. Big
Yeah.
time.
The next album 10 times more though.
Oh, that
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
USA for USA is I can see them dissecting the lyrics of that. And yeah,
Race
Steel
War.
would have not been.
Oh yeah.
They go after everybody for a little, just about anything now, and I could see them come like they'll be at Frankenstein's castle for this one. But anyhow, so my number 3, it was really tough, and I wasn't drinking to figure this out like Ralph, but that was a good idea. Sometimes when you listen to music sober, whole other experience when you got a few drinks in you to listen to it. Or other things, like Mr. James talks about sometimes, the maple leaf, the leafy beverages, the leafy things you smoke. But anyhow, it's still tough.
Green medicinal herbs.
It's still tough, but for me to go between the Possessed and the Celtic Frost, which is my 2 and 3, and I guess I am going to go with Possessed at number 3, even though on a certain day that could be number 1. I totally love the Exorcist song, the death metal song, Evil Warriors. I mean, there's nothing on this album. Somebody said about something you could skip. And there's definitely nothing you can skip, but I am going to go with it as number 3, and I will have Carnivore at 4. I do have Denny's and Miles picked, so I will do it as if they were here with us. Denny is going in with Carnivore at number 4, and Celtic Frost at number 3. Miles, who really wanted to do this episode but got stuck at work, Carnivore is also number 4 for him. And Possessed is number 3. So that's how the cookie crumbled with our guests that weren't here. I know that Ralph had a couple picks too, but maybe we'll get them at the end. The core guys that we're usually here. But how about we go back to Ed Farsley because he has to go to work soon, and I think Tom's working pretty well tonight. So we'll get your number 2 and your number 1.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, I mean, another one of the great metal debates of all time is who created death metal, Death or Possessed.
Yes.
Everyone says Possessed because Possessed put out the album 2 years before Death. But I got all the Death demos and the Death rehearsals back in 1983 and the Possessed demos.
Yep.
And they were both fucking great. But Death were doing something different. They really were doing something different than the original. Possessed were fantastic, but they were a heavy thrash band. Anyway, to move on.
They had a demo called Death Metal Demo.
Exactly. The song. Because Death Metal band is Death.
What's that, Faisal?
Yep.
Ed, are you talking about Mantis or Death?
Mantis, of course. Yes.
All right.
Yes. Pre-Death Mantis. Yes. So you know what I'm talking about, Ralph.
Yeah.
So anyway, my number 3 album is Possessed, Seven Churches. Just an absolute classic, as we've all been saying. It is just a pinnacle album. It is one of the best death metal albums of all time. No questions there whatsoever. Every song.
That's your number 2.
That's my number. Yeah. Oh, I said number 3.
Yeah.
See, my head's in work mode now, and I'm not even thinking.
Yeah, Celtic Frost and at 3 already.
yeah, exactly. But now, Possessed is number 2, and this album is just. Oh, that wasn't my dog.
I saw you got 2 lassies at your house.
Yep. They're around somewhere, probably sleeping. But yeah, this album is just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I was fortunate to be tape trading at the time with a guy in California, so I had gotten in advance to this album about a month before it came out, and I had heard like the demo before that, so I was familiar with the band, and the album just absolutely blew me away, and just never left my turntable for months and months and months at a time. Yeah. Still to this day, one of my all-time favorite, most listened to albums, without question. I mean, back in the day, I painstakingly wrote that Possessed logo on the back of my jacket, on my loose leaf binder, and I still have this giant fucking logo I put on my wall as a kid. They still got that.
Wow.
That's pretty creative as a kid, I guess. But I absolutely love Possessed. They were just phenomenal. Loved everything they did. And just I could go on and on about them. When
I was in high school, I had a hand painted denim vest, like the people got a hand paint, and I had Eyes of Horror. Yeah, that's where I went to 10th grade as.
Best. So those are fun times in high school. Well, not really, but all right. Number 1 album has to be Slayer Hell Awaits. I mean, we've all said it's a great album. It is my all-time favorite Slayer album. Yes, the EP, Horny Chapel EP, if that was a full album, would be the greatest Slayer album of all time because those 3 songs are the pinnacle of Slayer best. But Hell Awaits is my favorite Slayer album. The song Hell Awaits is, Tony mentioned this before, great intro. It is the greatest song, the greatest album, the greatest live concert intro, period, of any band. And I love a lot of shit. A lot of bands do great stuff, but Hell Awaits is the best. To this day, I mean, this album, again, I had a lot of live Slayer shows, tape trading back in the early 80s and stuff. So I knew most of these songs from the live shows by the time the album came out. And when this album came out, it just blew my mind. It was a game changer in every way in the metal underground, with thrash, with everything. And I remember, I had a boombox back in the day, like many of us did, and I'd walk around blasting this album anywhere I went, walking down the street, going to a park, going to the store, going on a bus, on a subway, anyway. I was always blasting this. And it lives with me. And to this day, the album starts and I get the same feelings. It feels as great to me now as it did 40 years ago. Yeah. And I have to listen to the album from start to finish. You can't cut it off. You can't skip a song. You need to hear the opening note. You need to hear the closing note and just bow to it. It is the greatest album. One of the greatest albums of all time. Certainly Slayer's greatest album. And there we go. Those are my albums. And yeah, I guess I should take off and go to work. This is a hell of an episode. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, John.
Thank you for joining tonight.
This is a great one. Cool. We'll listen to the rest of this episode later. Enjoy it, guys. And we'll continue this next week. Hopefully by next week, I'm back to a regular work schedule and I can stay the whole freaking time.
Hey Ed, are you really going to work? Are you going to TVI in Queens to see Satan tonight? Come on, tell us the truth.
I wish I was. I haven't been to work in 8 days. I'm going back to work tonight. I got to go back.
All right. Yeah, it
Take
was
care, guys.
tempting last week when I saw that. I was like, oh, I was supposed to do the show, but man, I should go see Satan. But I've gone to so many shows recently, and I got about 4 straight nights out after tonight, so I figured I'd cut it
And I
quick.
saw Satan, part of Satan's set twice, two different Satan sets in the last week. I'm good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did sit to
Yeah,
see
they're
it.
amazing live. They're great bands.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
I see Satan every night.
Yep. They're great. They're
Someone said that already on one of something today. I saw. So we're going
That
over
was
to
great. Okay.
Basil.
Take care.
Take care, Ed.
Again, me and Ed, we agree with everything tonight. I'm gonna go with Seven Churches next. This album, everything about it, every song on here. It's my favorite Possessed album. It's a game changer. I know what I was saying before, Mantis, the demo. I didn't hear none of that. This is the first thing I heard before I heard Scream Bloody Gore. You know, all the early death. This is the first one. I don't think I heard it in 85 though. I may have heard it a year or two later. But my God, The Exorcist, Twisted Minds, the song Death Metal, Fallen Angel. Amazing, game-changing album. And of course, yes, my number one is Hell Awaits. And I'll tell a quick little funny story about this album was I bought Show No Mercy when it was new.
Yeah.
And it was a grower. I didn't dislike it, but I didn't really get it, you know? And I did buy it in late 84, maybe early 85. So then I went to California in October, and before I went to California, I did get it. I started loving that Slayer, you know? And then I go to California and I get on a bus. My friend went to work. I get on a bus to go to a record store. And on a park bench where we stopped at, somebody carved in Slayer, Hell Awaits. This was October of 85.
Yeah.
And it was a sign. I was like, oh, I'm going to get that album if they got it. And they did. And I bought it in California. And my God, there's every song on here. Like, yeah, I would say sometimes, man, it's hard for me to say what's better, this or Show No Mercy. There's something about Metal Blade Slayer, you know? I know Rain and Blood is their best album. I understand that, but there's a lot of albums that I know are the best album from a band, but I still prefer other ones. It may be the best, but my favorite. So my favorite really is Haunting the Chapel, but it fluctuates with this and Show No Mercy. But then,
I think the drums is what puts it over the top over Show No Mercy for me on Hell Awaits. I think the drums are just godly.
Yeah.
yeah, well, Show No Mercy, you probably know this, Ralphus.
Yeah.
They had to record him hitting the cymbals later.
Yeah, just the cymbals. Yeah.
He only had one bass drum. He only had
Yeah,
one
he only had
drum.
one bass drum too. So it just sounds so much more insane on Hell Awaits. It's like you can't not be listening to the drums the whole time. It's the first time I've really paid it that much attention to the drums, I think.
To me, Dave Lombardo and Bill Ward are the greatest drummers ever.
Wow.
I'm a big fan of Lombardo's playing. I saw Lombardo's solo band film in New York. I think it was Ed. Damn, he left. Ed got us all tickets for that when we toured.
Oh yeah.
Playing New York, and Ed took us to see Dave Lombardo. And we all met him, and we saw. And you know the whole instrumental film thing. He did do little Slayer things during it. I was like, oh, that's Slayer, you know.
What band was it?
Film, I believe they were called. Film.
Yeah, PHILM.
Oh, Flim.
Flim. Okay.
Flim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen Grip Incorporated at the Limelight, and they were opening up for Morbid Angel.
I remember.
And I went upstairs, and I was on like the third level, looking straight down on the drum set, which you never get that view at a concert. Like you're looking at the Limelight, you could look straight down.
Yeah.
And that night, watching Dave Lombardo doing the Grip Incorporated stuff, which wasn't as insane as the Slayer stuff, and then seeing Pete Sandoval come out,
Yeah.
and he from Morbid, he made Dave look like an old man that night, but it was playing different material and stuff. But it was a big difference watching Pete Sandoval. He was like a
I
fucking
think I was at
octopus.
that show.
Yeah,
I saw
yeah. I
that.
think
I,
I saw that show, Ralph. Count. I was at that same show. I may have told you I was at that same
At
show.
the Limelight?
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy that
Yeah,
you were there.
the Kiss convention, the official Kiss convention was at the arena thing around the corner, whatever the hell it was called, the
Yeah, I kind
Rothman
of
Center or
remember you
something.
telling this story now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then I left, and someone said, "Hey, Morbid Angels playing the Limelight. We should go." So we just went. You know.
That was a great night.
I saw that tour as well at the Button South in Hallandale, Florida. And when
Mhm.
It came out, Dave Lombardo's drum set was in front of the whole band. The band played behind him. I don't know if that was you guys.
That's the way it should
No,
be.
it wasn't like that at the Limelight.
Yeah.
Huh.
It was weird.
Yeah.
He had the front it was cool and all, but I know what you mean about Pete Sandoval.
Uh,
I played a couple shows with Pete Sandoval and Terrorizer, and he's a great guy. I'm not saying nothing bad about him, but I think it was green. You can't flash green light on him. Like there was some lights up there. You couldn't turn on the green light or the yellow light or something. And he was very much into Jesus that night.
I think the night that I seen him at the Limelight, just the angle of looking straight down on a drummer, like it was a weird spot at the Limelight. They had these balconies where you can look straight down. I don't remember any concert that I went to where I had that view, and to have that view of those two drummers back to back was just like unbelievable.
Yeah, wow.
The best drumming I might have ever seen.
Cool. All right, Ralph, thank you for your input tonight. And we're gonna move. Where did I go? Where were I last? Did I go to count next, or I'm mixed up now? I got so confused.
I
I think he went to someone. Yeah, Tony. I think.
Tony, yeah,
I went
Tony
after.
next, then count, then James. All right, cool. Losing track and getting
So
old.
my number 2 is, believe it or not, is going to be Carnivore, and I have this reissue of the Carnivore album that has these teeth. I think it was the year 2001 it came out. It looks like,
And it's called Eat or Be Eaten too, right? Didn't they call it Eat or Be
It's
Eaten?
just called
Is that the name of it?
Carnivore.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just called,
'Cause
yeah,
at one point, I think they were calling it Eat or Be Eaten for some reason, but
they
I
it
thought it was
throws
on
in
cover.
it has some demo of USA for USA, SMD, and Sex and Violence and demos at the end for those, which is kind of cool. So I was totally out of the loop on this band for years. I'd seen the name Carnivore or whatever, and I remember when Typo Negative first came out, reading in Metal Maniacs about this band that some guys used to be in Carnivore and stuff. But I always had this notion that Carnivore was like this hardcore band that was kind of tied in with skinheads, because for some reason, I guess. And
the second album was totally
right.
And they Pete Steele wrote the lyrics to Cause for Alarm, the second Agnostic Front album, and he was going to CBGBs, and he got totally influenced by the New York hardcore scene.
Right.
Really?
So, yeah.
Pete Steele wrote the lyrics for Cause for Alarm?
Yeah, and Louis from Carnivore played the drums on that album.
Wow.
Oh shit!
He played all the drums on that album. He did the whole tour and whatever.
Oh wow!
But somewhere along the line, I heard some Carnivore, maybe on the college radio station or something. That's good stuff, man. So I went out and got this, and immediately just fell in love with it because, man, I'm a huge Venom fan, and to me, they sound like Venom. I mean, it's like Venom with better production. It's so much at times. I mean, not all the time, but it's just some stuff on here. I mean, like what is it? It's like, okay, well, I'll just start from the beginning. Like Predator, great opener. I mean, I love the just this hard driving opening track, and then of course the Carnivore, the song Carnivore. I mean, it's just like a thrash metal song about muff diving. It's just. Steel Panther should do a cover of that song. Seriously, the lyrics would just fit right into their stuff, and the whole thing's very controversial lyrics throughout the whole album. And it's like Count said, it gets even more on their second album. But the male supremacy. There's one that get canceled over nowadays.
Yeah.
But that one is when it's that and Armageddon both have these slow parts in them that remind me of what's to come with Typo Negative, and you've got that distorted bass. It's some cool pieces in it.
The clean vocals and
the clean vocals, the more melodic parts, Legion of Doom's just a badass song. It's got this hardcore fast song, but God is Dead reminds me of At War with Satan by Venom. It's just something, maybe it's just the way he's phrasing and over the track or whatever. It just kind of reminds me of that. But yeah, I mean, the rest of it, everything's great on this, man. I think it's well produced. I don't know if the original one sounded this good, but it's very well produced. It sounds really good. And I've really just grown to love it over the years. And of course, Peter Steele was going by Peterus T. Steele on this album. And I have my friend Mark. Petrus. Yes, Petrus, I guess how you say it. Yeah. But my friend Mark Brooks told me, he said, he saw him at Lamor's, and he's talking about he remembers him wearing the animal skin and stuff. I actually saw Keith Alexander probably around year 2000, 2001. He played in a band with Dee Snider doing all Twisted Sister covers called SMF.
I
remember that.
Yeah. But yeah, sadly we've lost Keith and Pete from this band.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's going to be the number 2, and of course my number 1 is going to be to Mega Therion. It's my fully autographed copy there of that, and I mean, Usurper, Jewel Throne, just great tracks. This is one of my favorite bands, and just a groundbreaking band, very influential. Just great riffs on here. I mean, gotta love Circle of the Tyrants. It's so great. Tears in a Prophet's Dream, like I said when we were doing Pete's show. I mean, it almost sounds like you're having a dream about falling into hell or the abyss or whatever. It's just and then Necronomical Screams is very influential. They're throughout the album. They've got all these. They've got some orchestral instruments, maybe like some orchestral percussion, like kettle drums and stuff in it, that would kind of influence this whole symphonic metal, especially symphonic black metal in the future. And on Necronomical Screams, you've got the soprano female vocal in it. That you start seeing bands do that later on in the symphonic black metal bands.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's so influential.
And they do that more on the next album too,
Yeah. I mean, they got very, very experimental on Pandemonium, which I like Pandemonium. I think it's cool, but it's nowhere as good as this one or Morbid Tales. They're definitely my favorites. And
like James was saying, how like
autograph CD
was influenced, by Celtic Frost, but how like Filth and Jimmy Borgia and all these other bands definitely were also.
Yeah, but yeah, Frost is one of my all-time favorite bands.
A lot of the black metal bands were.
Especially the more experimental black metal bands, the black metal bands that wanted to be more experimental, because Celtic Frost was so experimental. I mean, I'm next, so that's my next one. Mine's not fully signed. I got Martin Ain and Tom Warrior, and the fucked up thing was that.
So that's your number 2 album, Celtic?
Yeah. Yep. Wow. And the fucked up thing about this was that Reed St. Mark was living in our area at the time and frequenting the Chance, and this is where I got this sign when they played with Goatwhore and All Out War. And the thing is Reed St. Mark a month later is at a show at the Chance, and I get a picture with him and I meet him. I'm like, why weren't you here for the Celtic Frost show? I couldn't believe it, because I had all my albums that night and I could have got him to sign it, so I was pissed off that he wasn't there. But yeah, man, this fucking album.
When I saw him, it was like one of the first dates of the tour in 06, and Reed came to the show. He was there, and Tom was signing my records, and he and Martin, and he said, "Did you see Reed? Reed's up at the bar hanging out." So I was able to get him there. I was like, "Wow, what's the odds of that?" And then sometime later, I brought CDs and got a different show and got Tom and Martin to sign CDs.
That's cool.
And then when John did the Carolina Chainsaw Fest, a couple years back, I was able to get Reed on the CDs as well.
Oh yeah, it's weird because he was good friends with Pete Pardo. He was going to the same gym, and I think Keeler even went to like a show with them and drove
Oh yeah, I
down to
went
a
to a
show.
couple shows. Sorry, I was trying to
But
add
I
up
just
some of the
was
stores while you
I
were talking, but yeah, he went to a couple shows with us at the Chance, and I remember him going to Pete was interviewing him on a Marth, and he came along with us for the interview, was hanging out backstage with us, and a couple trips to the city for shows, and a couple trips to the Chance.
Pete got to do like an interview with Tom Warrior,
Yeah.
and he had Reed St. Mark on the line, and he had Reed St. Mark talk to him. And it was like the first time they talked in like 20 years. I
Wow.
guess it probably right before
Yeah.
when Tony got to see him at the show, being hanging out, like it was like the first time they reconnected was on the phone. But yeah, I love this album. It's so slamming. It's such an inspiration to so many of the black metal bands and stuff, and the the avant-garde parts to Frost, even in early days, like when they were being brutal and heavy, but they had these weird avant-garde parts to them, which they go way more into on the next album. But man, I'm not even going to go through songs because it's just every song so important. All I got written down is ooh. So yeah, my number one, no,
Ooh,
my number
hey,
one,
hey.
I'm gonna go with the fucking New York boys, fucking Carnivore. I mean,
Yeah.
when I was drinking, I could say the same thing with the Frost. I love drinking to that Frost album, but this Carnivore album, I'm singing every word to it. The lyrics are fucking amazing. I love the lyrics, and I remember when I first got this, I got this early on. This is like one of the first releases from like Road Racer back then. It's like one of the first things I remember. Like the Whiplash, Power and Pain came out, and like King Diamond as first album, but they were like the early releases. But when I heard God is Dead, that was like the most evil fucking blasphemous song I ever heard. Like, the Frost and the Slayer and Possessed are super blasphemous at times, but the way how clear it is in that song, that was like, wow, that was like scary, evil shit. And I just love singing along to it. It's fucking great post apocalyptic neo barbaric fucking lyrics, fucking awesome. I love their whole thing. And we were supposed to see them on this tour. They were supposed to play right in Middletown at this little fucking shithole warehouse. I still have the flyer today, and
What
it
that
was
were they were at the Grunge?
yeah, they were supposed to be at the Grunge on this when this album came out, and Whiplash was the opening band, and they had like five other bands play. And Whiplash had just put out Power and Pain, which was one of the greatest thrash albums of all time.
Yeah.
We get to the show and we find out Pete Steele couldn't get out of work that night, and he was like a garbage
I
man at
kind
the
of
time,
remember that now.
and he,
Yeah.
he couldn't get out of work. And I would have seen him with the fur and the armor. I did get to see him a bunch of times during the next tour and the reunion shows and
Yeah.
stuff. But I should have seen them way back in the fur days because they were fucking amazing back then. And one of my if they're my favorite two album band of all time. If like I had to pick a band that only had two albums, they're my all time favorite band. And both I do like Retaliation a tiny bit more than this, just a tiny bit. But they're one of my all time favorite bands. It's a top 20 album for me. So yeah, that's it.
Cool.
Killer.
All right, head over to James. I'm without Tony Dio. Tony, I'm not without Tony. I mean, without Denny Barth. This is hard for me to figure this out tonight. I'm trying to figure out and listen to everybody and try to add up.
Are you using the hockey scoring technique?
No, I am using pen and paper. Using
All right. So my number two is going to be Hell Awaits from Slayer.
Yeah.
Killer album. I used to hang out with a dude that I don't hang out with anymore because he's kind of a piece of shit. But when I did hang out with him, we're sitting around drinking one night and listening to this, and he goes, Slayer is my favorite band because they know what hell sounds like, and they made the perfect album that sounds like hell,
Yeah.
which is Hell Awaits. And I got to agree with the guy because, and that always like rung a bell in my brain because something about the production on this record, it really does kind of sound like it's coming up from underneath you when you're listening to it. It
Yeah.
sounds like it's coming from a cavernous kind of like, you know, the earth is opening up and fucking Slayer is playing down there and you're hearing Slayer coming up at you and attacking you audio wise.
Yeah.
Of course,
From
yeah,
south
everybody,
of heavens. They're coming up from south of heaven.
exactly. But actually, the production on this I like a little better because it's just a little more raw, and I don't know. I just dig this one a little better. At Dawn They Sleep is probably my favorite song on this. Necrophiliac is a great song too, and Crypts of Eternity is awesome. And yeah, everybody's already said Hell Awaits is a fantastic opener. It is
Yeah.
a fantastic opener. It's the one that Slayer should always open with.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's my number 2. And another thing I'd like to add about this, one of the only Slayer albums where you can really hear the bass.
Okay.
So there you go.
Yeah, especially in that one song where it's like, and it's like you can hear that really fast,
All right,
super
so
fast
we've
bass
got-
going, but it's like one note, but it's
Yeah. Most
awesome.
Slayer albums, you can't really hear what the
Yeah,
bass is doing. It just gets drowned out. And you're never really listening to Slayer for the bass. It's just this one in particular, the bass playing really fucking stands out.
yeah. You really don't even hear it on Rain and Blood. It's like you got the bottom end, but you don't really
Not
hear
at
any
all.
notes. You don't hear no notes. Like
Yeah, exactly. It's just root note stuff. It's just kind of following. So that leaves number 1. Hey, I got this CD from Rock Fantasy.
Thank you.
Exactly. Carnivore debut. Man, I love
How
this.
long ago did you buy that from me?
I bought this from you probably back in 2009 or 10,
Okay. Okay.
back when I was in Left in Ruins.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a reissue. It's got the 3 bonus tracks just like Tony Dio had on his. It just doesn't have the teeth on the cover. So I've got the USA for USA, SMD, and Sex and Violence demos at the end of this one.
I
But
like that
man,
cover
this is a fantastic fucking album. I got into Typo Negative as a young lad when Bloody Kisses came out, and I always remember hearing about Carnivore at that point, but the albums were out of print and just impossible to find, so I didn't hear them for years and years. And then a buddy of mine made me a cassette copy of his old copies of the debut and Retaliation.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, this shit is fantastic. And then it took until they got re-released where I got my own physical, real copies of them. But man, there's not a dull moment on this. As Tony Dio mentioned before, Male Supremacy and Armageddon, you get what's about to come with Typo Negative with those 2 songs. Male Supremacy, that clean thing in the middle, you know, with Pete singing over the clean guitar stuff going on, and Armageddon's got all those sludgy riffs before the fast thrashy parts, just fantastic. Legion of Doom is a killer song. Thermonuclear Warrior, and who doesn't love World Wars 3 and 4? I love Pete Steele so much. He's a huge influence on me, whether it's Carnivore or Typo Negative. Great bass player, great singer, great frontman, funny dude too. And I feel like that's the most important thing is he didn't take himself too seriously. He was a great like dude to he seemed like a great dude to hang with, just a jokester and just, you know, always lighthearted about everything, but he was a fantastic musician, and that's what I love about Carnivore. It's what I love about Typo Negative. So there's my number 1, Carnivore, self-titled classic album.
Almost every attractive female that was in the metal scene that I knew knew Pete pretty well. All I
I'm
can.
not surprised.
Oh yeah, a few of them.
Surprised?
Like, wait a minute, you knew Pete Steele? Oh yeah. Faith, who's been on the channel a couple times, we did a typo negative episode, and she talked a lot about like her hanging out with Pete and calling her mom and talking to her, and Pete was talking to her mom on the phone. That was a fun episode. We did a year or two back. So I guess it's my turn to give my picks, and I will go with number 2 for Celtic Frost, Jewel Throne, Circle of Tyrants, Necromantical Screams. I'll echo what Tony said about that song. That song, it's like the first time you ever heard anything like that. And you know, you had so many bands that have followed that later on, like I mentioned earlier, like Cradle and Dimmu, and they were so influential on so many bands. And I think that's why I gave it a little bit edge over Possessed. And my number 1 will be Slayer. I hate to say it, but I think I like Show No Mercy better. I think I've done a
Yeah, they're
ranking.
great.
I really like
I
the
do.
Show No Mercy album and the songs on it better, but this album is just blistering. It's short, it's fast, kind of like Rain and Blood. They're short albums, but there's not anything you skip at. And the first 3 songs are just perfect, you know? Kill Hell Awaits and Kill Again and Don't I Sleep, and it's just such a great album. And Necrophilia, great song. And so that will put Slayer at number 1 for me. And I did the adding already. And we have a tie for 4th place between.
What about Denny and the other
Denny. Oh yeah, I didn't give Denny's number 1 and 2. I haven't added
and
it.
John's?
Yeah.
You said you didn't get John's. You got
John didn't give us, but Denny's number 2 was Possessed. Number 1 was Slayer. Miles number 2 was Slayer, and number 1 was Celtic Frost. And I guess I didn't add them in, but Ralph, did you have the Cavaluzis that have appeared on the show a few times over the years? Do you have picks from anybody else?
Yeah, they had John had the father had Possessed for Celtic Carnivore 3, Celtic Frost 2, Slayer Hell Awaits, and his son had the same, except for he had Celtic Frost at 3 and Carnivore at 2.
Okay, great. So I didn't add those into the scoring, but we have a tie for 4th with Carnivore and Possessed with 16 points. Coming in 2nd place was Celtic Frost with 22. And winning this week's discussion will be the mighty Slayer with 26 points. So that's Ralph.
I knew Slayer was going to win.
Ralph knew that Slayer was going to win, but due to his drinking, studying in the afternoon, he put them at number 3.
Yep.
Yep. I had to switch it.
So if anybody likes Slayer, please keep in mind that we have a great Slayer tribute coming to the area, being part of our Rock Fantasy 39th anniversary. You can buy tickets online. It's at the Warwick Stage at Roosevelt Hall in Warwick, New York, which is a brand new venue, which was an ex-prison. We have a co-headlining bands of two tribute bands, 2 cover bands are there, headliners to make it a real party at the end of the day. But we have Damage Incorporated co-headlining with Slayer, Show No Mercy tribute. And originally we had a couple of guys from Show No Mercy coming on tonight, but they didn't make it. But I wanted to plug them anyhow. It's going to be a killer event with a bunch of bands. So check it out on our website, rockfantasy.com, if you're in the area. And come on out.
Great celebration for 39 years of Rock Fantasy. 30.
I know we're actually
years.
heading for 40 now. So as soon as this party's done, I'm setting up the 40th one for November of this year, and
And we're gonna get the real Slayer for that one.
I doubt it, unless you've got some kind of connections I don't have.
Dave Lombardo's Slayer. It's coming.
There you go.
Yeah, it's like all these different. Yeah. I don't think we're gonna get the real Slayer, but we'll have something going on. But anyhow, like
We gotta make it a big one. That's gotta be the biggest one ever. Of all the anniversary parties. 40?
Well-
Come on. You're not gonna get another milestone like that. Come on.
Yeah, but I don't
40?
have connections to get big national acts, so and I don't have the money
Wow.
for me to do it either.
Get incantation, immolation. You got a lot of friends. You got tons
Yeah,
of
we'll have
friends
to
that'll come
see.
off
You know, all that's
Sabotage.
all big money.
Chris
Yeah,
Caffrey brings
Good luck with that.
There you
sabotage.
go.
I don't have access to Starlight
Overkill.
Ballroom
You know,
or-
Blitz. Get overkill.
Yeah, you
You
never know.
might be able to get Crucial Pain. You might.
Oh, okay.
They're too
Well, maybe we'll
expensive.
keep that in.
They're way too expensive, man. They're like priced out of the league.
Well, it'll be our 40th, but I'm not going to guarantee a Slayer or Megadeth or Celtic Frost or, we'll see if anybody else wants to come in and do something, but we'll figure it out. But that's a whole nother subject for another day. We got to get through 39th party first. But I'd like to thank everyone for giving their time to the channel tonight. And actually, this was a pretty short episode, only 10:07. We started right around 9 o'clock. This is one of our shortest episodes.
Wow.
You would think could have been one of our longest, but it was a good episode and
Yeah.
heading to 85. And we've got plenty of more things to talk about from the years 85 and 75 and many other things to talk about this year. But
95.
there's 95. Oh, we got all year and figure it all out. And then we got locally, if you're in town, in the Middletown area this Saturday night, we have a heavy metal event going on at the Zone at Clemson with Denim and Leather, who we interviewed last night. World's Demise, Earthquake Logic, which is the side project of Ken Faggio of Morpheus Ascends fame, of course. And they're going to be there, along with Sadwich Collective and Hell We Raise is opening up. So there's a big WXAX metal night coming up this Saturday if you're in the area. Me and Ralph are going to go out carousing this weekend. We're going to go see a Doors tribute on Friday night. And I think it's Absolutely Doors. And then we're going to see a Paul McCartney and Wings tribute on Saturday night before we mosey over to the metal show. So we got it well rounded, and I will be in New York City on Sunday night for the Corpaclani and Saphirum Troll Fest show. So I've got a big weekend, so I need to rest up a little bit now.
Yeah.
I just saw
Fest.
the Mayhem tour, the 40th anniversary, which is amazing. I saw Delane and some symphonic metal, Alexandria, Edge of Paradise, who I had on the channel on Sunday. And then last Thursday, I was down in Queens for Primordial, which was just epic. Never get to see Primordial and got to see them right up front. The TVI, I really recommend the venue. It's like borderline of Brooklyn and Queens, but it reminded me of St. Vitus a little bit, where the room we were in where the bands play. But out in the front, there was a restaurant and not a restaurant, but a bigger bar, 2 bars and some booths. And there's an outside part that reminded me a little bit of Brooklyn Monarch. So it was a cool venue. Beer was rather inexpensive. I got a draft Lagunitas IPA for like, I think $8 or $9. Kind of unheard of in New York City.
Nice.
So, it seems
That's
like a
cheap.
nice venue, and Satan's there tonight, but we're not there. But would like to go and see that, but that's that time of year where there's a million shows like Tony and I did an episode last year. You can't keep up with it. Like the other night, I was at the Delane thing, and I met these guys that were going there, meeting Delane and leaving to go see Outcast, who was playing in town. There's like a million shows going on every night coming up.
Outcast. I didn't know you like hip hop.
No, Outcast. Not
I know.
Outcast.
I thought he said Outcast.
Outcast.
No, Outcast.
Outcast.
I'm
With
fucking with you.
ALCEST. And
No, I know. I'm fucking with you.
but Tormentor.
Outcast. Maybe they could tour with
Tormentor is playing their first ever New York date at TVI in May, and Tormentor is of course fronted by Attila Caesar from Mayhem, and I'm really looking forward to that show. So I'm going to get some tickets and go down to that. But anyhow,
That's his original band, right? That's his original band.
it's his original
Before
band.
Mayhem,
Man,
right?
you talk about heavy, and I got turned on to them by Ryan Scow a few years ago.
Yeah, he loves them.
And I tell you what, it is serious stuff, and it's so good. And for 1988 or 87, wherever they were, whatever years they were from, it's like mind blowing heavy from back then. Hungarian, yeah. So
That's awesome.
that should be a good show to go check out. But we'll see you next week on the Rock Fantasy Files. I have to figure out what we're going to talk about. But Faisal, it's nice to have you tonight with Mastiani's t-shirt on, and we got Tony Dio from the South, James Delisle from Discondant Records, and of course Crucial Pain. Maybe we could get a big band like them for our 40th anniversary. Maybe. Because Ralph pays him a few grand, maybe 20 grand, a nice rider. Well, and Count Ralphus, thanks all for joining me tonight, and we'll see you next time. And please give your rankings of what your favorite albums were tonight. We'll see you next time on the Rock Fantasy Files.